What's up, horror fiends? We are back. 3 corners of horror on Horror Fiend TV here on YouTube. I'm back. My name is Ricky Grimes. I'm back with my 2 brothers. I got JR and I got Joe. Today's episode is going to be quite interesting because for the first time since we've been doing this, I think all 3 of us got different perspectives on what the hell we just watched. So real briefly, JR, I'm going to start with you. We are talking about My Dead Ones. You can watch this film free on Tubi with ads, so be prepared for that. But it's a long one. Be prepared for that. JR, overall, quick, what did you think about this? Overall thoughts?
Very good concept. Very good lead actor. But did it really kind of the rest of it play out the way it should have?
How are you, Joe? What's your quick thoughts?
Quick? It was okay.
Yeah, I liked it. But we'll get into the pros and cons about this one for sure. Now, JR, talk to us. This film is about a young filmmaker named David. He's got some issues. He loves filming everything he does. What did he call it?
Observing.
Yes,
he's an observer.
He's the observer. Thank you very much for that.
Observer and documents.
Absolutely. So, JR, why don't you talk to us about David? Bring us right into the story. Get us up to speed.
Well, we get a nice transition to meeting the character David. I mean, when we meet him at first, he's a child in this beautiful scenery, out in the woods, playing with a gun, which was kind of threw you off at first, but then you see
already.
Yeah, then you see his, what we assume to be his father, helping him point the gun, fire the gun. Then it transitions to David in the middle of an alley with what looks like police people walking towards him. Then you get another quick transition where he's in school. And we get to see the different phases of David. Obviously you gotta get interpretations that he's a kind of a loner by himself. I mean,
pretty shy, right? Yeah,
very shy. I mean, he's played by Nicholas Prattis. Hopefully I got your name right. But like we were saying before, he has a fascination with filming, being the observer, and he likes to get deeper into the objects that he's gazing at. So once he gazes at something that catches interest, he continues to film it, to observe it. And we also find that David also has an antagonist in school. Now, this is not high school. He's in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to have an antagonist in college where you're being bullied by somebody, in that stage.
It felt like high school. It felt like
I thought it was high school at first.
With the lockers and stuff. You don't have lockers in college, do you? I thought you.
It depends. The labs, it's just some of.
Yeah,
you're by the labs.
Yeah, I don't remember any lockers in the colleges.
But it's. And the funny thing with the antagonist is he brings up a point where one of the first things he does is questions David's sexuality, which gets played out later on in the film.
Now, Joe, before we get into you, sir, I have forgot to mention, and I apologize. This film is directed by Diego Freitas. If I said it wrong, I am sorry. Now, Joe, we're going to Brazil, sir.
We are in Brazil.
So what are your thoughts on this? Now, we got JR talked about David now. Like, what's his motivations? What is he up to? Talk to us.
Well, the thing is that the motivation and tension it's really muddled in the film. I don't know if he's a stalker, a filmmaker, or just a weirdo, somebody who develops a crush. Like, there's a couple of things that are kind of going on. He's probably all of them. He's going around recording people. And I guess some people take photographs so they can get those moments when the person's not paying attention, because you can capture.
I like that.
You can capture real moments. So I get it, but after a while, looking over your shoulders, some dude standing there recording you.
Yeah.
You're gonna turn around. So as far as the attention, so it takes a long time to get to the intentions. So we'll try not to take that long that the movie took. So
well, David's an observer. So there's one particular character that he's quite fond with. His name is Jonathan. He catches them a couple times reading a book. What was it, Plato? What was the book? Who got the book? It was Plato, though, wasn't it?
It was a Plato, but I forgot what it was called.
All good. Irrelevant. Don't worry about it. As long as we know what it's about, it's Plato. So the book it's interesting because later on, David does find the book as well in a library.
Yeah.
I apologize. I've only seen this movie one time. I didn't get a chance to really go over it too much, but hopefully, these two guys could help fill in the gaps that I am missing. But I digress. So Jonathan, he's quite keen on this character now. Joe, what's up with Jonathan? Like, what can you tell us about this character?
So Jonathan, since we're going to talk about Brazil, every once in a while you're going to hear me say the actual pronunciation in Brazil. Jonathan is played by Andre Hedgens. He's someone that Davi has been recording. You see, he catches him at one point reading that book from Plato. It gives you kind of the hint that he's maybe a possible love interest for him. And it appears that he's developed a crush on him because later on you see when he's looking at the footage that he tries to capture a still picture. And I can't remember if he was able to capture the picture or he just kept the guy's picture on the screen. So, obviously he was going to be doing something with that image that we didn't get to see. But yeah, that's what I think at first is who he's supposed to be as it's just, be a love interest for him.
How about you, GR? Like, what's his intentions though? Like, what's Jonathan like? We know why he's placed into this film, but what do you think is his overall art? Because, like Joe mentioned, there was kind of a connection there, and to me, it kind of went both ways. I don't know if I read it wrong, but what do you say?
It kind of did go both ways because the first time, Jonathan basically talked about us when he saw him reading the book on the rooftop, and he went chasing up the stairs. But then again, you had that scene where they're in school, and I don't know what happened where he gives him something on the like Jonathan sitting on the desk and he just look at him in amazement. But his intentions, honestly, with me, I was uncertain. It wasn't really in detail what his intentions really were. I mean, I know the one scene where I felt like he had the most, foundation in this film is when Jonathan's holding the pigeon, and he's talking to David, and David is like looking at it, he goes, then Jonathan goes, yeah, his wing is injured, he probably won't fix. And David goes, oh, he's infected, he's probably not gonna last. And Jonathan like wraps his hands around the pigeon's neck, and then he says the term, that liberty from matter, as our friend Plato once said.
That's from the book, yeah.
Yeah, and it snaps his neck. And then when he snapped his neck, you see like David almost like something triggered inside him, because the way he was looking at the fact that what he used an example basically to set the bird free, he used later down the road in some of his intents.
Yeah, like Jonathan's character I like that character a lot, because even though I did say the mutual attraction went both ways, Jonathan kept pressing him with questions, knowing like, do you observe everyone? Kind of saying, I know you've been watching me. Yeah. And he knows, all right, what's your real intentions here, David? Like, what are you really looking for? But I don't know, like the acting, I think, was really good in this film. Like the two, David or Davi, like he said, and how do you say Jonathan?
Jonathan.
So
Jonathan.
I liked their conversations because you could tell Jonathan was kind of like ahead of the game here, knowing that something's kind of off with David, but at the same time, you didn't really know because it felt genuine, but at times very subtle. And I like that they did it very subtle where, okay, Jonathan knows something is up and he's playing along to see if he can get David to kind of trip up. But who knows? Maybe that's not at all what it was, but that's just, again, first viewing what I took out of that. Now,
all right,
again,
so before, because I was waiting to see if either you guys brought it up.
Yeah.
I think he was there to help develop David to bring out, basically because he was he was toying with him. He was manipulating him.
Right.
Trying to get him out of his shell, when he gave him the absinthe, and he had that weird dream, which I don't know if you guys saw the part with the dream that he thought he ended up killing him, but he didn't. Him having sex with his friend, all that is going to tie into something later on. But I think that it was like his role was to help bring David out of his shell, almost like let him see who he is,
to wake him up essentially. Okay, interesting, because like I said, I know we're gonna have different views on this because this requires not more than 2 viewings, man. Like it's, again, guys, I can't stress this enough. for a horror movie, and I've always said this, I do not like long horror movies. 2 hours, especially for like a film like this, where it's so much exposition, dialoguing, and like it's like a lot of character moments, one after another. It's so hard to stay focused, especially near the end when it comes to all these weird, trippy effects and stuff. Like, where the hell did this come from? Again, I really dug. I was into the story. I'm not gonna lie. David and Jonathan. I wanted to know everything about these two, but it was just the runtime, man. Runtime killed me. But there is a twist in this film. We're gonna talk about this right now. Again, it's gonna be hard to digest everything, but please bear with us, Jr. When you first saw like the ending of this film, right? I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna let you, kind of describe if you would prefer that. But what's going on? What happened at the end? Like, what do you think was the resolution and the point of this film?
Well, before we get to the end, let's explain the culmination of what leads to the end.
Yes, absolutely.
You had after the incident where Jonathan snaps the neck, David goes home, and something goes inside him where he decides that I'm gonna wear a white hoodie and go to my next door neighbor, knock on her door, and there's this older lady who, I mean, she knew why he was there. He didn't know why he was there. He was trying to find a way to explain why he was there.
He kept looking at it through the camera too.
Yes, and then it came to the point where he felt like he had to set her free. Now, when he killed her, he didn't really do it brutally. He was embracing her, and she allowed herself to embrace her.
He was filming it all. That's important. That's going to come into play.
Yes. So he kills her, and the twist is that from this point on, the people he killed, which I picked this up on the second go.
Well, before you get into that, but it was because of the photograph. That's what awakened David to this, right?
But it was the woman who awakened it to him because he didn't know what the photograph was, and she told him, "You need to look for these people." So by killing her, it was like a trigger after trigger. Jonathan triggered him. He went and basically killed her. She triggered him, which led to this whole road of I'll let Joe go because it leads to a whole clusterfuck at the end.
Real quick, too, before Joe, that tension between Jonathan and David, though, man, I don't know.
It was good. It was good.
I really enjoyed it, man.
But with the twist at the end, you're sitting there like wondering what.
Yeah. So, but Joe, hit us up, son.
I saw a completely different movie.
Good.
All right. So I think that Jonathan was a cult leader. I think that the whole group that you saw, the family that he was all together with, was not that was not his sister. Whoever the other guy was, who was the father of the girl that he ends up killing.
Carlito, that was his name.
No, well, there was
something like that.
I think David and his mother joined Jonathan's cult. When you see them all around in a circle, she's dressed in white. She's about to be indoctrinated into the group. When he takes the absence and he has that dream, he sees his friend having sex with Jonathan. But then you see a flashback of his mom having sex with Jonathan. And it's very aggressive, kind of the way that cult leaders kind of take the woman in to, their group. So when you get to the end and you see him as a little boy and he, shoots Jonathan and kills Jonathan, I think he killed Jonathan so him and his mom can get away, essentially.
You think he was abusive?
It was abused.
I mean, he was teaching him how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
But, again, in some cults, you'd have to teach the men how to use guns because eventually if somebody comes after you, the men have to defend things. So that's kind of like what my take on this was, honestly, was that because when he killed the old lady, that was then the grandmother popped up. So all these people kept popping up in the apartment. After he killed the father and daughter, they showed up in the apartment with him. So all these people kept popping up. And this is where, again, it's going to go just even further out there. When he goes to talk to the guy and says, "You don't even remember me." And he's like, "You were supposed to be in the hospital." And he mentions that he was in a hospital. So because he's little, I'm sure if he ended up getting caught, he ended up in a mental hospital, probably damaged from this cold stuff. So because it got very trippy at the end, I was then led to thinking that this was kind of like the twist on American Psycho, where this was all just in his head. None of this, because it was too trippy. The whole thing was, after he killed the people, they were showing up in the house.
Weird.
He was putting his family together,
Yeah.
but I don't think none of them were his family.
That's how I took it. Exactly. I took it just like that, where he was my dead ones is essentially his dead ones is his family. In order to be together once again, he has to murder each and every one of them to bring them all to free them. And essentially at the end, he kills himself, and now they're all together. That's how I took it. I mean, yeah, it's just
that ending. You're like,
that's what I'm saying.
He set up the bullet to take the fall, and when he was already talking to the detective at the end, when she was pretty much saying like, no, I know what you did. We're good now, but I'm gonna come get you. And this guy, all right, whatever. He's dead. He's free. He's with his family. That's how I took it. I don't know. But let's go into this real quick. GR, did you have anything else to add to this before we move on? So we're gonna do pros and cons, because we'll be here forever trying to dissect this. Pros and cons in this. Man, where do we start, GR? Why don't we start with you, man?
The pros. I mean, David took this role. He ran with it. He kind of reminded me of Freddie Prinze Jr. for some reason. If Freddie Prinze Jr. was to make a movie where he becomes a serial killer, I mean, they look alike a little bit. There's something about him that they just look alike to me. But I mean, his portrayal is pretty good. I mean, the fact that he wore white at the beginning when he killed the old lady, and then he killed the guy. Basically, bashed his skull with a pipe.
One thing we didn't mention,
and the daughter. He
didn't really show how they killed the daughter. You just knew she was dead.
This is pretty important. He was a serial killer, but he made snuff films. He made snuff films. Every victim he killed, essentially his family, he put it on the internet. So he was kind of notorious on the dark web. Interesting. I got to see this again. Honestly, it's so much. I got to look into it. But good. I'm sorry.
And another interesting thing is the fact that the victims he killed, they looked more alive when they were dead than when they were alive. I mean, all of them looked happy. All of them looked
the whole point.
Overjoyed. They all looked overjoyed. The old lady looked like she was a zombie when she was sitting there on the table, and all of a sudden she's with makeup on, she's cooking, she's active and stuff. And once again, lighting fan. There's a lot of yellow and blue in here. Once again, now for the cons. I mean, we're gonna beat this to the dead horse. It's just way too long. The problem is they try to do too much character building when there was no need. The minute that we knew he was gonna hunt those people down, just hunt them down. They literally spent 20 minutes from the moment he found the taxi driver to the time the taxi driver actually came to his house. I timed it 20 minutes.
That's bad.
That is way too long time to try to build the character of him going after the daughter to meet that. I mean, it was way too much. And honestly, as a horror fan, and I know it was supposed to be his family, but man, I would love to have more victims.
Dude,
a lot more victims.
At an hour and 14 minutes, I enjoy Sheep Theater more than I did this one, because it's too long. Like, I'm sorry. I can't. I hate long horror movies.
Give him a body count. And then all of a sudden he realizes, oh my God, he's in my family.
Me?
Yeah. I don't know if you finished
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. The con, the movie was too long. The pro, the movie was done. That's it.
Awesome. Well, the acting was good. The acting was good. It was too long though. I agree. It's just I can't get around it. I just can't. Like, for me, I was watching this with my girlfriend. She tapped out halfway through, and that's a first. And I had to pause it and go to bed and finish it on my phone. And I still had like 40 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, like, what's going on? Like, it's not the longest movie, but for horror, it's just, if I like shorter movies. I'm sorry. What did we see recently? Was it Antlers? That was a good, was that like 1 hour, 24 minutes or something like that? An hour and a half, put it that way.
Yeah, that was an hour and a half.
That's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
But once you get to an hour and 54 minutes, like this movie did, and then it didn't use that time appropriately. It just added just for the sake of adding to the runtime. That's a problem. But yeah, that's gonna be that for that. So closing thoughts, guys. What are you gonna rate it? Joe, let's go for you first, man. What you got? I know where this is going.
The movie, it was a good concept that was ruined. When I read the descriptions, I was looking forward to it. I agree with you guys. I needed more killing. It's a serial killer, and he killed 4 people. I mean, right? Yeah, 4 people.
Did he ever
Five,
bring
including
the
Jonathan.
what? Did he ever bring the pigeon back to life? He said, "Oh, the pigeon.
The pigeon appeared and just flew off.
Why is
Yeah.
it the pigeon? I felt
don't.
the worst for the pigeon than anyone else."
But yeah, you know, like I said, the description didn't fit what I saw. You mentioned the 40 minutes. 40 minutes played a lot for me in this because 40 minutes in, I had to make a pot of coffee. I had to drink 3 cups of coffee to stay awake for it because I was dozing off.
Yeah.
And I kept hitting pause to see how much longer I had, and it's just kept getting longer. And then when I had 40 minutes left, I felt like I'd already watched 2 hours of this.
Well, the problem is, all right, let's set the record straight. For long films, if it's a big blockbuster like the Avengers, for example, right, I could do that. I mentioned it before. I sat through Justice League, right? But for a movie like this, where it's a slow burn and it's 2 hours of a slow burn,
Too much.
too much.
Yeah.
How about you, JR?
So wait, I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. But so for me, I'm not even doing the math. This is getting a 2.
JR?
It's getting a 2 from me.
For me, you had a massive opportunity to create a face for Brazilian horror in this character. I mean, this character would have been like their version of American Psycho. I mean, Joe brought up earlier. I mean, give him a body count. It's a serial killer movie. Give him if you're gonna make him have a conscience from all the killings he does, do it after he kills like 15 or 20 people that he realizes he's doing something wrong, or the fact that the one person he kills gives him this connection to his basically childhood. But yeah, way too long. You're trying to do too much character development on different characters that really don't have much, but just being a body on the film. I'm gonna give it a 3. I mean, I wanted to give it more, but it's just that was just too long. Too long.
There's one thing I did like. I think it was Jonathan that he mentioned the film Titanic, and I'm a big Titanic mark, man. I was like, yes,
which was a long movie, but was still enjoyable.
Yes, because it wasn't a slow
fall
burn for the
asleep.
whole movie.
I mean, yeah, no, all right.
But yeah, the tension is. I love the tension in this film. Really good build up. And one thing I gotta say before we finish, the music was really good. It reminded me of almost Creepshow, where it's kind of this dark, whimsical, like sound to it. I don't know what it was, and it helped build the tension. Boom, boom, boom. Especially when Jonathan and David had their scenes when Jonathan's kind of grilling him a bit. Very good for that. But again, the runtime killed it. It was just one scene where he's breathing, and bro, it's just his face breathe. Bro, that felt like an eternity, man. He's just breathing and just lingered on forever. It takes a few watches. The movie does get boring in places. I'm gonna give it a 3 as well because I liked it. I liked the concept. If they would have shaved like a half hour off of this, I think it would have definitely, added to it. Or if they're not gonna shave it, like you guys mentioned, break it up, add some violence in there and something, just don't let it you can't just have people talking and just character moments, boom, boom, one after another, because it's just gonna drive you crazy. Unless you're into that kind of thing, then more power to you. But it is what it is. I got a 3, and you guys already gave it your score. So Joe said 2.5, right, Joe?
2.
I said a 2.
2. That's your lowest score yet. Wow. How about you, JR? You 3, right?
3.
So me and you are on the same. We're on the same page on. Okay, so 2 and 3. So it's not the worst film I've ever seen. It's just long. They could have got to the point a lot sooner, and I think that hurts it because underneath all that, I think this is a good film. But
and since it's on Tubi TV, there are commercials,
bro, and you can't skip them.
Added more to it. So you
can't. Yes, you can't skip them. You can't skip the commercial, and they're over a minute long, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, all right, guys, thank you for joining us on Horror Fiend TV. 3 corners of horror. You can't win them all, but that's what we're here for, so you don't have to watch them. I'm Ricky Grimes. I'm here with JR, Joe. Tune back in next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. for another episode of 3 Corners of Horror. Catch every Sunday, 10 p.m. We got the Walking Dead Horror Fiend TV podcast with me and Joe. JR got his Horror Fiend of the Fiend Zone every Friday to keep you up to date on everything we're doing. Guys, please, again, smash that like button, share this video, subscribe. Thank you for everything. We really do appreciate it. And with that being said, see you on the next one. stay scared.